Students. So in this video we are going to understand the transportation of materials in animals. Remember, there are some organisms which are unicellular like amoeba, like paramecium, and normally they do not require any kind of specific transportation system because they can simply move in or move out the substances with the help of process that is known as diffusion. But in the case of multicellular organisms like human or other animals, so there is a special kind of smart transportation system. So in human, that special transportation system is known as circulatory system, which includes blood, blood vessels, and heart as main constituents. So if we talk about blood, so blood is a fluid which help in the transportation of many things. Like it help in the transportation of digested food from the small intestine to the all part of the body. Similarly, blood help in the transportation of oxygen from the lungs to the body cells, and it also help in the transportation of carbon dioxide from the cells to the lung. Same time, it help in the liquid waste from the cell to the kidney, so that is also transported by the blood. Not only this, blood also transport the enzymes, hormones which are required inside the body. And normally a human adult is having 4 to 5 liter of blood inside their body. Now if I talk about the constituent of blood, so blood consists of plasma, which is a liquid part of the blood, and yes, it is yellowish in color. And second is the blood cells. So in this slide we are going to understand what is exactly plasma. So you can see this liquid like structure, this fluid like structure present inside the blood is plasma, and these are the various type of cells which are present inside the blood. So first cell is the red blood cell, which is also known as RBC. So you can see the shape of this RBC is disc shape, and it is red in color because of the pigment that is known as hemoglobin. So hemoglobin we have already studied in the respiration chapter that it carries the oxygen by forming a complex that is known as oxyhemoglobin. So this is the RBC which carry the oxygen from the lung to the body cells. Second type of cell is present in bluish color. As you can see, this is white blood cell, which are of various size. This is not having fixed shape, so sometimes they are of amoeboid shape, like this. And the main purpose of these WBCs are to protect our body from the disease. So they are going to kill the foreign material or the bacteria which enters in our body. The third type of cells are the platelets. As you can see, these are the smaller type of cells which are smaller than the RBC. And the main purpose of these platelets are to form a clot whenever we get injury on our skin surface. So they help in the blocking the flow of blood, and they help in the prevention of blood loss. So that is the main purpose of platelets. Now, if we move ahead, so there is a vessels in which blood basically circulates. So blood circulate across the body through a network of tube called blood vessels, and these are of three kind: arteries, veins, and capillaries. So artery, as you can see in this diagram, so this red color vessels are basically artery. Why these are in red color? Because this is the symbol to represent that this is oxygenated blood, and blue color is for deoxygenated blood, that is carried away by vein. Now, what is oxygenated blood? That is the blood in which oxygen is present, and deoxygenated blood in which oxygen level is very low but carbon dioxide is more. Now the thing is, this is the artery, as you can see, which is very much broad in diameter, and these are the fine tubules, which is third type of blood vessels. These are known as capillaries. So arteries are further divided into a small thin blood vessel which is known as capillaries, and these are so much thin that they can simply exchange the gases with these tissues which are associated with these capillaries. So inside this network of capillaries, behind this capillaries network, there is a cluster of cells that is known as tissues. So whatever nutrients or whatever gases are being exchanged, so that is exchanged with the help of capillaries wall with the tissues or cell wall. So like this. So directly they can exchange the gases with the process that is known as diffusion. So this is how capillaries of artery and capillaries of veins are attached to form a network. So these are the three kind of blood vessels. Remember, arteries are basically the blood vessels which are again attached with the third organ of our circulatory system, that is the heart. So arteries are basically carrying the carrying the blood, and they are carrying the blood away from the heart. Remember, away from the heart. Whereas vein are the blood vessels which are carrying the blood towards the heart. So remember this the thing. So one more differences about the arteries and veins are there, that vein, if I'm going to compare vein with the artery, so vein is having thin, the thickness of this wall is less than the artery. That means arteries walls are more thicker than the veins wall. So this is the concept. And yes, why it is thicker? So because they are getting the direct blood from the heart, which is pumping the blood with high pressure into the artery. So to bear that high pressure blood, arteries are generally thick walled in shape. This is the thing. Okay, so this is all about the blood vessels. Now I am going to tell you about the structure of heart. So in this structure you can see, in this diagram, so this is the structure of heart, which is basically a kind of muscle. So this outer side of the heart is basically a muscle which is known as cardiac muscle. And yes, the size of heart is almost equal to the size of our fist. And this heart, which is of fist size, is located in the center of our chest, that is between the lung. Now the thing is, normally, if I can tell you about more about this structure, so normally in our human heart there are 4 chambers. That means 4 empty spaces are there in the heart. These are like this chamber, which is onto the left side, is known as left auricle. This is left ventricle. This is right auricle, and this is right ventricle. So remember, the total heart is divided into 2 main chambers. One is left side and one is right side. And this division is done by the muscle, flap like muscle, which is known as septum. So this is septum, which is dividing the heart into the left side and the right side. And left side chamber is again divided into 2 chambers. Uppermost chamber is known as auricle, which is left auricle. Bottom chamber is known as ventricle, which is left ventricle. Similarly, onto the right side, this is right auricle, and onto the left side, onto the bottom side, it is right ventricle. So that means there are total 4 chambers. And remember, one more interesting thing is that in between these 2 chambers, you can find these projections also. This is valve, and this is also a kind of valve. So in between these chambers, there is a wall which separates the auricle and ventricle. Similarly, this auricle and ventricle is separated by the help of this wall. And lots of blood vessels are going inside the heart and going outside the heart. So this I am going to tell you in detail. Now the thing is, this particular vessel, you can see, this is the vein, main vein, which is carrying blood into this right auricle. And similarly, this is the artery which is taking the blood away from the heart. Remember, artery always going to take blood away from the heart. So this is the main artery and this is the main vein. So main function of the vein is to carry the deoxygenated blood in the right auricle, and main function of the artery is to carry the oxygenated blood to the various part of our body. So this is all about the chambers and the main vessels. Now there are 2 other arteries are also present in the heart. So this artery, so remember, this artery which is blue in color is a pulmonary artery. So remember, the function of pulmonary artery is again to carry the blood, but pulmonary artery is exception. That means other than all arteries, this artery will carry deoxygenated blood, and it will carry the blood to the pulmonary region, which is known as lungs region, where it will get the oxygen. And yes, after getting oxygen, the blood will come with the help of separate vessel that is known as pulmonary vein, and that pulmonary vein is going to reach into the heart. So these 2 are pulmonary vein which are coming from the pulmonary region, that is lung part. But these veins, normal veins, are having deoxygenated blood, but this pulmonary vein is exception, having oxygenated blood. So they are carrying the oxygenated blood into the left auricle. So like this. So exactly what is the way of circulation of blood? Remember, circulation of blood is done with the help of pumping of heart. So when heart pumps, so these auricle and these ventricle basically contract. So first of all, this auricle will contract, then simultaneously after fraction of second, this ventricle region also contracts. So first of all, these 2 contraction take place, then these 2 contraction will take place. Now what happens when the blood enter into this right auricle? So because of the contraction, the blood move inside this ventricle region. Now because of the contraction of ventricle, the blood will flow into this particular artery, which is pulmonary artery. Now after reaching to the lung, then it will come back from this pulmonary vein into the left auricle. After the contraction of left auricle, this blood will go into this particular chamber, which is left ventricle, and because of the contraction of this left ventricle, blood will flow into the main artery and it will go into the various part of the body. So this is how blood circulate inside our heart. So remember, right chamber always carrying the deoxygenated blood, whereas left chamber always carrying the oxygenated blood. And it is because of the contraction of auricle and the contraction of ventricle, the pumping takes place. Now moving on to the next segment, that how blood circulation taken place inside our human body. So this is the diagram of heart again, which I have told you. And yes, these all part of the body, like as you can see, this is the head and arms part, and this is the liver part, this is the intestine part, this is kidney part, this is the legs and the trunk part. Now you can see this segment, these blood vessels are vein and these blood vessels are artery. So I have already told you, artery will carry the blood towards the heart, and after this deoxygenated blood which is coming out from the various organ, so deoxygenated blood will fall into this auricle, that is the right auricle. Then because of the contraction, it will go inside this right ventricle, and then because of the contraction of ventricle, it will go into the lung region, where it will get exchange, carbon dioxide exchange, oxygen exchange. So oxygenated blood will come out with this pulmonary vein into the left auricle, then it will be pushed into the left ventricle, then oxygenated blood will be pushed into the artery which is known as normal artery, and this normal artery will supply the oxygenated blood to the various part of our body. So this is the circulation of blood taking place in human body. Now again going back to the heart diagram. So I have told you that heart normally contract, this auricle part normally contract, and this ventricle part also contract after fraction of second. So this contraction of heart basically produce a beat. So heart contraction and relaxation produce a beat that is known as heartbeat, and because of this heartbeat only, the blood flow in these arteries and veins, so like this. So because of the heartbeat only, and the normal rate of beating of heart is 72 times per minute. So this is the thing. Now when the heart beats, so the blood which is present in the left ventricle goes into the artery, and remember, this blood going into the artery is having high pressure, so it is having high pressure, and that high pressure blood will make the artery to form a wave like appearance onto their surface, because of this high pressure blood going into the artery, and that high pressure blood will cause a stretching and relaxing of the arteries also, and that stretching and relaxing of the arteries will be felt by us at the wrist region. So you can, I mean, when you are going to touch your wrist region, so you will find a pulsating sensation is there. So that is basically throbbing sensation, and that throbbing sensation is basically due to the stretching and relaxation of the arteries due to the heartbeat. So that throbbing sensation is basically known as pulse. So remember this thing. So pulse can be felt on our arteries, like present onto the location of wrist, and it may be present onto the location of our throat area, like this. So this is about the heartbeat and the pulses. Now moving on to the next slide. So now we are going to discuss about the excretion process taking place inside the human. So remember, in excretion also transportation of waste is required, which is again done by the blood which is present in our body. Now the blood which is having toxic material will go into the excretory system or the urinary system for the filtration. Now the blood is carrying the toxic waste. Now I am talking about the toxic waste which is also known as metabolic waste. So metabolic waste, how it is produced? It is produced because of the metabolic reactions taking place inside our cells. And what are these metabolic reactions? These are cellular respiration. These are several chemical reactions like synthesis of protein. And because of this metabolic reactions or activity, our cells, each and every cells, are going to produce metabolic waste. So this waste, which is in liquid form, is going to dissolve in the blood, and that blood will go into our urinary system. So you can see in this slide, this is our urinary system. So in this urinary system, when blood reaches, so here kidney part is going to do the filtration of that toxic blood which is having toxic content or which is having metabolic content or metabolic waste. So in this kidney there is a unit of small functional unit which is known as filtering unit, I would say. So that filtering unit is known as nephron. So this is the structure of nephron which is present in the kidney, and the number of nephrons is around 1 million in each kidney. So these are the small nephrons which are present inside the kidney. So the blood will enter into this structure of the nephron, so this ball like structure. In this, blood will enter. So you can see this is the capillary network present inside the this bowl or this capsule, and this network of capillary will release the blood. I mean, there will be filtration which take place inside this particular bowl, and because of this filtration the toxic content will go inside this particular tubules, and blood after purification will go out of this Bowman capsule or this particular bowl. Now the thing is, the filtrate or the filtrate material which will go inside this tubule, and finally it will become a urine, and it will be collected inside this collecting duct which is present inside the kidney. Now after getting collection of urine, so this urine will be passed through these ureters. So you can see this is the ureter which is a tube like structure. So both the kidneys are having one ureter. So urines are going to be transported through this ureter into the urinary bladder. So this sac like structure is urinary bladder. Ultimately urine will be collected inside this bladder for temporary purpose, then it will be expelled out because of this opening which is known as urethra. So the urethra will help in the expulsion of urine out of the body of the human. So this is how excretion of the waste taking place inside the human. And again I am telling you, not only human, but this excretion take place in other organism also, like in the birds, like in the reptiles, like in the single cellular organism amoeba and paramecium also. But in the case of other organism, this human excretory system or urinary system is more complicated than the other. So this is all about the structure of the excretory system.